guys, so it was suggested that I do a kind of currently reading video where I talk about the books that I'm currently reading, my thoughts on them partially through, and kind of how I'm reading multiple books at a time, I suppose. And I thought that's quite a fun little chatty video I can sit down and do, and it is interesting to hear what people are thinking mid-book in comparison to when they first started or at the end of a book. And I'm pretty sure it was Leanne from Literary Diversions that suggested this, who is absolutely wonderful. So if you haven't checked out her channel, make sure to do so. I'll link it down below. But without further ado, let's talk about the books I'm currently reading. First up, let's talk about the audiobook I'm listening to. I'm always listening to an audiobook regardless of how many physical books I'm reading, because there's times in my life when walking places or cleaning or whatever where listening to an audiobook is just the perfect thing to be doing. And listening to an audiobook of a book I do have a physical copy of, so I'll hold it up, and that is Sophia Khan Is Not Obliged by Aisha Malik. I have sped through this audiobook. It's one of those audiobooks, and I've not had this for my last couple, I don't think, even though I enjoyed them, where I would prefer to be listening to my audiobook than reading a physical book. I'd prefer to be listening to my audiobook than watching YouTube videos. I just, any opportunity, even if it's just me lying in my bed doing nothing else, I don't have to be moving around to listen to my audiobook, is grabbed. I am so enjoying this. I've got just under 5 hours left in the audiobook, which is just past the halfway mark in the book, and yeah, like I said, I'm speeding through it. This one is about our protagonist, Sophia Khan, who is a young Muslim woman in London and works in a publishing house where they ask her to write a book all about the Muslim dating scene. So she agrees to do this, and that is pretty much what this book about. It's about her writing that book and her experience dating as a young Muslim woman. It's simultaneously a really light-hearted chick flick type book with romance, and it's been ages since I've read a book like that, so I think that's also one of the reasons I've been really enjoying it. But it also exposes me to a culture very different from my own, as I'm not a young Muslim woman, so that has been really wonderful. I think that's what makes this book special. It is taking a pretty ordinary, well-read book concept of the chick flick kind of romance. I don't mean chick flick in a patronising sense. I think we all know what I mean when I say chick flick, these kind of fast-paced romance / inner monologue type books, and that's what this is. My one criticism at this point in the book though is that it is too similar to Bridget Jones. So it's been compared a lot to Bridget Jones, it's been called the Muslim Bridget Jones. It's too similar to Bridget Jones in some senses, like the main character is trying to quit smoking and she complains that she's not as skinny as she'd like to be, which are just, I get that in part that's because, oh, these are things that lots of people do think and deal with, but they're also kind of cliches and they get a little bit old. And I also have my suspicions about the way the narrative of this book is going to go if it follows the Bridget Jones plotline. And obviously Bridget Jones is actually based on Pride and Prejudice, so in that sense it's also mirroring that. And if it is intended to be like that, kind of mirroring those plots, then that's fine. And I'm not disliking enjoying it because of that, I just think it obviously makes it a little bit more predictable. But like I said, overall I am thoroughly enjoying this one and will be picking up the sequel very soon after finishing it. I'm then reading an actual book on my Kindle, and that is The Children of Jocasta by Natalie Haynes. This book isn't out yet, it's out the beginning of April. It's published by Mantle, which are an imprint of Pan Macmillan where I work, so that's how I have an early version of it. And this is another one that I'm just really enjoying. I'm having really good luck at the moment at really kind of engaging reads, and this is a retelling of the Greek myth of Oedipus, if you can't guess by the name of the title. Jocasta. Jocasta was Oedipus's mother and his wife. She's separated by her son at birth because of the superstition surrounding a curse, and years later they meet again, not aware that they're related, and get married and have their own children. So it's a very tragic, famous myth. One of the most well-known versions of it in ancient literature is the Theban plays by Sophocles. You don't have to have read those though to enjoy this book. It very much sets up all the information you need to know, and in fact there'll be more surprises within the story if you haven't read the originals, but also if you have read the originals, there's still surprises in this. It's been really nice the way she's twisted it. I like that she's kind of removed almost the mythological elements and made the things that are explained by the gods in the originals explained by more natural phenomenon in this version. And it is set in antiquity, so I really enjoyed that. I also enjoy the way it's been padding out the story. It's split perspective. It's told in half the chapters are told from the perspective of Jocasta, who I've just explained to you, and then the other half of the chapters are told from the perspective of her daughter, a couple of decades later. And that's been interesting. I think Jocasta's chapters are my favourite at the moment. I don't know why, but they are. I'll be interested to reflect back on that once I'm finished. I'm also reading a collection of short stories on my Kindle, and that is the short story collection The Accusation by Bandy. I'm about 35% of the way through this collection. It has 7 stories in all, and I've read 3 of them. So far it's been a really interesting collection, but I don't think I've read enough of it to have a really set opinion on it. But what's really significant about this collection is that Bandy is a pseudonym for a North Korean writer who is still residing in North Korea. And they've managed to smuggle these stories out of North Korea, and they've been published and translated, and I think it's going to be quite an important piece of literature. So that's going to be really fascinating to see the discussion, I think, that evolves around it. And I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of the stories, actually. They're all about life in North Korea. And lastly, I'm not very far through this book, and I think I'm going to swap to audiobook to read the rest of it, and that is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is my first book by this author, although he's pretty famous. This book has been turned into a film, which I haven't seen. Well, I've seen the trailer for it, and there's slight spoilers in the trailer, so don't watch the trailer if you don't want any spoilers. But I'm enjoying this so far. I'm only 33 pages in, and I think it's about 280 pages long, so I'm not very far into the narrative, but I'm enjoying the writing style. But like I mentioned, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about the audiobook recently and how much they love the audiobook, and since I have a credit and will probably want to listen to another audiobook after I finish Sophia Can, I thought why not try this one. So I think that's what I'm going to do once I've finished listening to Sophia Can is Not Obliged to listen to this one, since people have been raving about the audiobook. This is a dystopian novel where it's narrated by one of 3 friends who grew up together in this sort of boarding school as part of this society where they're being raised for a specific purpose, although you don't initially know what that purpose is. That, however, is what is spoiled in the trailer of the film, which is annoying. I've been told you do find out what the purpose is though sort of midway through the book, so it's not as though it's like the finale that's been spoiled. The one thing I don't have on the go is a collection of poetry at the moment, which I usually like to have, but I finished my collection of poetry, which was Stranger Baby by Emily Berry, and you'll hear about that one in my wrap-up. So I thought I'd show you the 4 poetry books I'm deciding between, and maybe you guys could tell me which one I should read, either because you want to hear about them or because you've read them and really enjoyed them. The first one I borrowed from Jen, so I should actually probably read this one quite soon and give it back to her. This is Apocrypha by Catherine M. Valente. It looks quite dark. I haven't actually read any Catherine M. Valente's work. I tried to read The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making and just didn't really get into it. I also have Furies, a poetry anthology of women warriors, so this is lots of different poets, which might be a nice one to try. Then I have Measures of Expatriation by Vani Capildio, and Don't Let Me Be Lonely, an American lyric by Claudia Rankine. This is her previous work from before she wrote Citizen. So do share with me any thoughts you have on the books I've talked about in this video, and let me know which poetry collection you think I should pick up. You'll definitely be hearing about a couple of those books in my reading wrap up because I'm so close to finishing some of them. But until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!